Well, he might be the obvious choice in some ways, but he's also the experienced choice that Ducati's had for a long time, and maybe they just want to see a change. You know, they've got Scott Redding in there. Redding's been able to win races. He's challenging for a title. Bautista came in last year, was able to challenge for a championship. So maybe for Ducati, they're going to look at it and say, after all this time, maybe a change is good. And for Chaz Davis, it could also be a case where he thinks maybe a change is good. Go to a team where maybe the structure's a little bit different, where you're on a different bike, and maybe you're able to get back to the kind of form that everyone knows Davis is capable of. This is a man that went toe-to-toe with Jonathan Rea for a few years in a row. He was able to finish second in the championship, third in the championship. He's won a lot of races, and you'd certainly expect that if he's on the right bike again, the right environment around him, that he's going to be able to challenge again.
Jonathan Rea goes top of the timesheet to 1:55.669. Almost 0.2 of a second faster than Michael van der Mark. Well, 1.5 of a second faster than Michael van der Mark's earlier time. So Jonathan Rea, who was stranded down the order for most of free practice 1, is keen to assert himself as the #1 once again in FP2. Still time to go, 4 minutes to try and set an improved lap for these riders. Samuele Cavalieri is on a good lap at the halfway mark this time around, looking to move himself inside the top 10. Garrett Gerloff with new personal best first couple of sectors as well. So still time to be found. At the moment, it's Rea who leads the way with that latest lap.
Yeah, Rea just improving on his time again. He's got just under 0.2 of a second in hand over Van der Mark and Rinaldi as well. So decent performance there from Rea. It's around about that 13 seconds off the dry weather pace from this morning. So we've been in and around that all the way through this session for all these riders. Cavalieri, we see here, he's on course for another personal best. It might just improve his lap time, may not improve his position, but right now he's down in 12 fast. He's a 1.5 seconds off the pace. So we'll see what he's able to do with a good run through to the line.
Cavalieri then off the final turn, looking to move inside the top 10. He has done so. He becomes the latest rider to dip below the 1:57s. So 1:56.9 for him, enough to move him into P10. That's ahead of Davies and Haslam. So exalted company for Samuele Cavalieri.
Yeah, and into the top 10, that's a good performance by the Barney rider. Just looking down at the timing screens for who's fast in different sections. Rinaldi's very fast in the first sector and the third sector, and Jonathan Rea setting the pace in the fourth sector. But Van der Mark in the middle of the lap, sector 2 and 3, that's where he's really making his lap time. So good to see different bikes working well in different areas of the track.
Tends to be the case, and certainly here in Barcelona, it's a very varied course. That was difficult to get out. Put my teeth back in. A mixed course, and one that poses plenty of differing challenges for riders around its length. 2.5 minutes remaining. Alex Lowe's at the moment down in 18th place. Looks as though he's about to get a wiggle on though, as he attempts to move inside the top 10.
Yeah, and for Lowe's, we saw that they were working on the bike pretty extensively only a couple of moments ago, able to get out now in the final 5 minutes of the session to try and get some more lap times in. He's done a dozen laps so far, so a little bit less than some of the riders, about the same as his teammate Jonathan Rea. So it really is just about trying to see what changes they're able to make to that bike to make it a little bit more comfortable in the wet for the riders. That's Loris Baz that's gone down.
And Loris Baz is separated from his machine, walking away from the scene of a crash in the third sector, and Loris Baz then sees his free practice 2 end in the gravel.
Yeah, down at turn 7, and that's a fast entry into 7, and typically the crash you tend to see there is that it's either folded on the entry and the rider just goes down into the gravel trap, or else, as we saw during the test, a couple of very big high sides there. Leon Haslam had a big one, Toprak had a big one, and hopefully for Loris Baz, it really was just a case of just losing the front on the entry and just sliding into the gravel trap.
Less than 1.5 minutes remaining now. We see Cavalieri on for another strong lap, makes more progress. He's now up to P7, so Barney will certainly be enjoying seeing this. Their Italian Championship rider moving over to WorldSBK from this weekend as a replacement rider, and he goes up into P7, just a second back from Jonathan Rea's fastest time. Rea will see out the closing minute of the session from the pit box, deep in discussions as ever, as Scott Redding, his championship rival, comes across the line. 0.6 of a second down on Rea, 1:56.3. He'll get another lap in the latter stages, and we are seeing faster times coming in the closing moments, as you'd expect in a gradually improving track. Bautista and Gerloff both up after sector 1.
Yeah, you can see here with Bautista as well on the 119 Honda. This is where we saw the crash for Loris Baz, but the yellow flags were all gone. The riders able to push hard through this section again. This is where the track starts to rise up into turn 9. It's his blind entry through here. This is where Bautista's experience can pay off in the early stages of this race weekend as well, just because he knows the lines through there, he knows what to use as his sight markers. It's easy to run a little bit too wide on the exit.
So Alvaro Bautista still in line to move provisionally inside the top 3 positions. Doesn't look as though we're going to see a repeat of the Yamaha 1-2-3 lockout we saw in free practice 1 earlier on today. Can Jonathan Ray's 1 minute 55.669 be beaten in the closing moments? Could it be either Scott Redding or Garrett Gerloff, who are both still up? Gerloff after 3 completed sectors, Redding at the halfway mark in this lap. We're watching Bautista making his way through. He's only a mere fraction of 15 thousandths of a second away from Jonathan Ray's time. Has he been able to make up the ground in the final sector? The answer is no. He improves, but it's only up into 3rd position and 2 tenths down. Ray, Van der Mark and Bautista then in the closing moments. The checkered flag has already fallen. Garrett Gerloff coming towards the line. If it's a good final sector, it could be good enough for P1. It's not. It's 1:56.321. He remains in 6th place. What about Rinaldi and Redding then? They're in the final sector and looking to make some progress up the order. Rinaldi at the moment in 4th position. Redding at the moment in 5th. It's Ray, the championship leader, at the top of the timesheets in free practice 2. Redding then will come towards the line in an attempt to displace his series rival, and he is unable to do so as well. So that's a strong final sector by the looks of things for Jonathan Ray, and one that none of his rivals could replicate, because all of them were giving up time in sector 4. Rinaldi likewise, although he does enough to move between Van der Mark and Bautista into 3rd. So the final standings after free practice 2, Ray, Van der Mark, Rinaldi, Bautista and Redding, your top 5.